Desi, you auditioned for The Daily Show thrice.
Thrice.
Did you, in your audition process, come up with an idea for a character for your correspondent and has that played into your character now, or has it changed? Or
I did. And that is, I'm doing the exact opposite of what I thought I would be doing. So it clearly worked brilliantly.
Yeah.
At the time, I guess it was 2014 when I auditioned.
Okay.
And the piece that I wrote for myself for the audition was definitely inspired by Gretchen Carlson and Megyn Kelly, the kind of like Fox News blonde type.
Okay.
I kind of thought like, oh, there's an opening to do like a female version of Colbert's character, and I would go hard into that Fox News lane. Mm-hmm. So that was the piece that I wrote, and that was the piece that I auditioned with. But then once I started the job, when Trump came into the equation, I think the entire landscape changed. Yeah. And it felt like, oh, we have bigger fish to fry than Fox News. Fox News is a huge part of it, but kind of like ironically embodying that persona at that time in the political climate felt sort of unsavory. Mm-hmm. And like we couldn't make that sustain itself for years on end. And so I would dip in and out of that character periodically when we needed it, but I wound up playing much closer to like just a heightened sort of like overly confident, underinformed correspondent. Yeah. News correspondent.
I think that's a layer of what we all do.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. So there was that, but then, some, depending on the piece, like I would kind of, you try to create a character that's somewhat close to your persona, but highly exaggerated, and then you sort of fit into any situation with what it requires. Like if we're doing a field piece and we're sitting down with someone who is kind of a wacky, crazy character, you want to play straight. Yeah. Right? Like you have to play the role of straight because they are the wacky character, and there's no sense in having two crazy people. So you figure out your dynamic, and then if you're sitting down with an expert who's schooling you, you kind of become the overly confident, underinformed, and then you play a bit of a character. So yeah, it definitely has evolved over time. And then now in this stage that we're at right now, where we're being correspondents, but then also hosting sometimes, the hosting role definitely requires you to be more of yourself, which was an adjustment that I had to get more comfortable with, because I thought like, oh, I can be brave saying all of these things in character because I'm playing a character. But then once you take that armor away, it becomes a really vulnerable experience when you have to be more yourself. Yeah,
because when you're hosting, you're not necessarily even a heightened version of yourself. You're yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
When they first approached you to say, hey, we're going to have you host, what was your response?
I said, I'll be there tomorrow. Yeah. I said, are you sure this is what you want?
Had you thought about wanting to host before? Was that even on your radar?
No.
Okay.
It never, starting this job, like I desperately wanted to be a correspondent. Yeah. I watched for many years the other correspondents, Sam B and Colbert and Carell, and like worshipped what they did and thought like that's the most fun job on the planet. And so when I started this job, I thought like this is what I'll be doing. I never thought that I'd get the opportunity to sit at the desk. And I think having more of like an improv background and an acting background, my goal was never set on being a host of a show. Like I just didn't think about that. But then when things opened up and we got the opportunity, I thought, well, I got to try it on. Got to put my hat in the ring here somewhere. And it is totally different, but it's kind of awesome. It's like such a great opportunity.
And you've gotten to do it multiple times.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still very new, still like a new muscle that needs to be worked. But yeah.
When you are hosting, what extra responsibilities do you have? Because I know we have so many writers here who are brilliant and come up with things like that, but it's like when you're hosting, do you have more input on what direction you want the show to go in that week?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that we, even as correspondents, we are always brought into the conversation. It's very collaborative. And I think the show always wants us to have ownership over what we say. When you're hosting, I think there's a little added responsibility and pressure that whatever happens in that show, you're sitting at the desk, so you share some responsibility in it. And taking extra care and making sure, like, this is my perspective. I believe in everything I'm saying. And again, it's very much a collaborative process because we have such brilliant writers here, and we definitely rely on their expertise. But, like, it is your point of view at the end of the day. So, yeah, I think there's like, a little added pressure. A little bit, yeah.
And I also feel like, I don't want to speak for you, but I will.
Do it.
Do you feel like when you are hosting, or honestly just being on the show, do you feel like being a woman does you have to put it through that filter? I'm just saying because I'm like half Japanese and I'm gay and all these things. And every time I receive any kind of material, there is always a filter of like, I need to remember that I am saying this as an Asian person or as a gay person.
Yeah.
So I need to know how that is going to come across because it's me saying it. Even if I think these jokes are hilarious, they might not come across as funny because I'm saying them.
Right. Or you feel an obligation to represent people who you're speaking about. Like, you don't want to disappoint. I know last week there was the ruling coming out of Alabama on IVF, and we kind of quickly wrote a very funny mini headline on it. And we were working it out in rehearsal, and as we're doing it, I'm kind of like, oh, this is really funny, but we're going to the jokes a little too quickly here. I think we need to kind of like sit in how messed up all of this is. And I had to sit for a minute and go, okay, I know, 5 to 10 people in my life who have actually been through this. What are they going to want to hear right now? And they're probably going to want to laugh about it a little bit, but they also are going to want to hear some acknowledgement about how excruciating this process can be. And so sometimes, like, you do try to I want to represent women well. I think we all feel a sense of responsibility that we don't want to let people down. And at the end of the day, we just kind of have to follow our instincts because there's no way we'll be able to make everyone happy.
Right. And it's like, we're happy to represent the communities that we come from. Absolutely. But it can't be solely about that. And I have no interest in being the face of my community.
Right.
In that sense, because I'm not equipped. I'm not intellectually or anything like that. And it's like, I remember my very first field piece that I shot was the piece about professional cuddling.
As one who goes through life avoiding human contact, I wasn't thrilled about meeting someone who made a living from touching other people.
I have to admit, it does sound a bit scammy. Seems like you're just ripping off people who've never heard of a body pillow.
It is not just about the physical act of cuddling. The body pillow cannot talk to you, right?
I would see the fact that my pillows can't talk back to me as an asset.
And I remember, they sent me the breakdown of it and the pitch. And of course I was like, I'm very excited because it's my first field piece. But I wrote back, I was nervous. I think I texted you about it because I was nervous because the take was like, our correspondent thinks that this industry is actually just like a front for like sex work. And I remember emailing the team back and being like, this is funny. The fact that this is my first impression on the show, I don't know if I necessarily want my first impression as like the gay correspondent to be me showing up being like, so we're all going to have sex, right?
Right. Yes. And that's what's so great about this show is like day one, you can come in and be like, hey, I had this thought.
Yeah.
And this is a concern for me. And how do we navigate around that, or how do we change the take so it feels more in line with what I want to represent and what I want to talk about? And what was that like when you brought that up to the producer and you said, hey, here's what I'm thinking? How did that go over?
They're extremely receptive of it and said, we'll tweak it before we shoot. We'll tweak it while we shoot. If you ever feel uncomfortable, we can stop. But they were wonderful about it.
And it just goes to show like how needed it is to have a variety of diverse voices in the room, on the writing team, in producing, in front of the camera, because that represents our audience.